topic we're trying to address is how do clients address some fundamental concerns that they have had for generations. As John mentioned, transformation isn't new. Enterprise operations isn't new. There have always been generations of change that clients and organizations have dealt with. I think it's the velocity and the novelty of some of the changes that are coming up that is different today than it has ever been before. And the possibilities of the solutions available by technology innovators such as Amazon and others is different than it has ever been before. So I'd like to kick this off with some thoughts at my side and get Stephen's points of view on this as well. A lot of our clients are dealing with two fundamental concerns related to either technology obsolescence, so they've spent years investing or underinvesting in technologies and creating solutions that may or may not meet needs, and face what we call a capital deficit. It's either you need to spend 120 million, 150 million, in some cases $2 billion to address your technologies, otherwise your business will not operate. And in other cases, they have business operations that are just not built to keep pace with the needs of today. Multiple channels of attracting customers, multiple ways of interacting with your customers, multiple ways of integrating the ecosystem that a company does business in. And what we've increasingly found is that, not to say that cloud is the solution to everything, but cloud is the foundation to everything. Without enterprise class cloud and without agile technologies that are built on enterprise class cloud, everything else does not work the way it's needed to work in a more agile, more disruptive business model. So, Stephen, I'd like your thoughts on that, and we can have a discussion on what it means to our clients.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I might take more of the sort of CIO technology viewpoint, given that's kind of where my background is. And I will say, I feel like, Edward, you and I kind of drew the short straw having to go after
Yes.
John here this afternoon, because I couldn't agree more with pretty much everything he said about culture and transformation being one of the most challenging things to keep companies relevant today, and it's certainly the thing that I run up in the most in my job when I go out and talk to CIOs and CTOs all over the world, talking to them about how cloud can kind of enable and change their business. So I thought that was a great talk. So thank you. When I was the CIO of Dow Jones before I joined Amazon 7 months ago, and I always kind of looked at my IT department as having these 5 distinct parts. And you had your business applications, which are the applications that drive revenue into the company. So digital products, e-commerce, sort of your subscription revenue, things like that. Then you had your corporate applications, which was your sort of traditional back office IT, email, collaboration, ERP, HR, financial systems, IT support, end user computing, which is generally your help desk and the things that enable all the workers in your workforce to use technology. Underneath that, you had infrastructure, which tended to be centralized across these other 3 parts. And the reason that infrastructure tended to be centralized is because traditionally, in the old world, it's expensive, it's slow, and it's really hard to do at scale well. And then interweaved in between all of that, which was the fifth part, how I always looked at it was information security. And I was always trying to kind of organize my department, so I had heads of each of these, and those kind of would be my 5 direct reports. And of course, because of organizational dynamics and culture, it's often very difficult to sort of achieve that nirvana. But now you think about how enterprise cloud is affecting all these different businesses and traditional IT, and you think about that infrastructure layer, right? And so the reasons that, like I said before, that was centralized is because it's expensive, slow, and hard to do. So now you have players like us enter the market, and AWS was the first in this market 9 years ago to take all of that heavy lifting away. So now you no longer need to worry about the long lead and procurement times to get all of this infrastructure, rack and stack it in your data centers. And over the course of the last 9 years, we've developed many more services that fit in and around all of these different parts of IT that take additional heavy lifting away. And it's giving all of these businesses an opportunity to rethink how they want to deploy their resources. And I think there's a lot of avenues that draw companies to the cloud. It can save you money, it can give you a better security posture, it can help you deploy your applications faster globally in ways that you never could before. But When I talk to most CIOs and CTOs who really get it and start to use it in a meaningful way, what they find and what the main driver for having them continue to use it in a real meaningful way is that they can then devote more of their resources into their business applications. So as infrastructure gets smaller and gets eaten effectively by this DevOps or Agile model, and your corporate applications and your end user computing are increasingly then solved by whether it be SaaS or cloud-based solutions, where you no longer have to spend your very valuable resources on managing the infrastructure that powers them. You can funnel more resources back into your business applications, and at the end of the day, that's what, in my view, certainly the rest of the executive team wants out of a technology arm, and certainly what customers want as well.
And I think that's spot on, because when cloud started becoming mainstream and then really became mainstream about 3 to 4 years ago, there was a lot of discussion on is cloud because is it because it is cheaper? Is it because I don't need to own assets anymore? Is it because it's easier to maintain? The answer to those obviously is yes. I mean, we don't see cloud as cutting edge anymore. We just see cloud as foundational to what every organization has to do. But what a lot of clients have not realized yet, some of the progressive ones have, is that the question being asked is no longer, can I do IT cheaper? Can I do IT more secure? Can I do IT with less overhead? The answer to that is obviously yes. But the question being asked is, well, what does IT do today? And we have a panel discussion with CIOs immediately following this. That is different. And from our perspective, the answer is, as you said, Stephen, it is about how does IT now create capabilities to impact business outcomes. Whether the business outcome is I know digital is considered being primarily the domain of chief marketing officers and top line growth, but there's a significant amount of digital technologies and innovations that can happen related to core enterprise operations and core enterprise processes as well. And as the core moves to the cloud, as the core becomes cheaper and more agile, it allows clients to start innovating on business processes and innovating on business models that was just not possible with older technologies. And that's where we see the true benefit of enterprise cloud, not just in terms of can you spin up dev test environments quicker? Of course, the answer is yes. Can you vault some data more securely? Of course, the answer is yes. But it's more about, can you optimize my supply chain to get 30% savings without necessarily having to go into a slash and burn like clients used to do in the past. So that's where we see the big inflection happening in terms of how companies are looking at the cloud differently today. It is a platform for fundamental business transformation. And if clients ask the question that way, the answer is apparent. If the clients are happy getting the cost savings, then there's a lot of value being left on the table that they haven't realized yet.